morning and welcome to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
And we are a week away from Election Day. And the turnout has been, shall we say, underwhelming.
Yes, Bill, it definitely has. Right now, I believe we have on Sunday, so numbers have not been updated as of this morning. I'm hoping to get those maybe throughout the show, but we'll see. Might have to report tomorrow on that. But, on Saturday, 1,808 people voted at the BOE. And then as of Sunday, 2,782 people voted on Sunday between the Civic Center and the Board of Elections. So,
not overwhelming numbers, shall we say.
No.
And if you don't realize the importance of this election, then we ought to take those illegal aliens that are coming in here and then ship you out in the other direction. This is a vital election, and we may not have any more than just the 50-50 split, but at least we won't have 6 more years of a communist.
Well, I think the other thing to think about is not just 2022, right? Or we also
exactly.
need to think about 2024 and what that could set us up for.
Exactly.
Continuing, number one, the 50-50 split will give us an opportunity to maybe not allow all of the bad things to pass. We probably can't get everything we want, but we can stop a lot of things, which I think is super important.
At least we have, Congress, which will have the control of the purse, and I hope the Republicans will grow a backbone enough. We've been praying for that for some decades now, but that they will have enough backbone to stop some of these crazy spending deals, because that's where, in case you haven't had civics or anything, and I know they don't teach it anymore, that's where the money originates. Yes,
and so with the Senate, it will also set us up to win even bigger in 2024, mm-hmm. which it looks like there's a good possibility for that if we, if we continue to do our due diligence and we continue to also have candidates that are worth voting for.
So Herschel Walker is the guy that you need to vote for. Don't vote for any Democrat anymore. Okay, that's just a given. If you haven't seen and realized what's happened over the last 2 years and how quickly it's happened, then you need serious couch time. And there's an editorial today in the what's left of the Savannah Morning News by Adam Van Brimmer, whose IQ I think is approaching double figures, but I'm not sure, criticizing Herschel Walker because he's criticizing electric vehicles. And he doesn't realize how economical they are, and that we just broke ground on this 2,000-acre plot to build coal burners, electric vehicles. There was an article, story just a couple of weeks ago, Brittany, of I believe it was a big city. I don't remember what it was, Boston, but it was a major metropolitan area that had spent a lot of money on these electric buses. We have 6 of them that still aren't running, by the way.
And we're getting more for the schools. Did you hear that?
Yeah,
we're getting
more for the schools. So they had to buy at least twice as many because they're a lot more expensive than a real bus. So they get these electric buses, but they can only use them half a day because they have to come in and get charged. So they have to buy 2 buses to do the job of 1. Yeah, that's really helping the economy, isn't it? And then they don't tell us about all the mining that has to go on to build these batteries that run these things. As you know, we used to go after cobalt here in America. But guess who shut that down when he became president? Yeah, that's right. Same guy that shut down the XL pipeline, and who now has allowed Chevron to start drilling in Venezuela. So it's okay to go to maybe not an enemy, but at least an adversarial country, and talk to a tin-horn dictator and beg him for forgiveness and can we drill on your land for some of your oil instead of ours, so we can make you richer instead of employing American people and American jobs and lowering the prices here. Dirtier oil, by the way, than what we have here in America that we're standing on top of. Can we do that?
Well, I also think we have some cheery Christmas music in the background, but I also think it's important to know what exactly this so-called Inflation Reduction Act actually did for us.
Yeah,
so
please.
Are you good if I read through this really quick?
Yeah, I'll go right ahead.
So we have $6.5 billion Natural gas tax, which will increase household energy bills. So thank you for that, Raphael Warnock.
Yeah, that's going to help inflation.
Yes, we have 12 billion crude oil tax, which will increase household costs as well.
Huh.
Corporate income tax hike on U.S. businesses, which will also be passed down to households.
Yeah.
And 124 billion stock tax, which will hit your nest egg, 401ks, IRAs, and pension plans. And 95% federal excise tax on American pharmaceutical manufacturers, which I do agree they should be taxed. And then...
You agree pharmaceuticals should be taxed?
Yes. Well, the pharmaceutical companies. I guess not pharmaceuticals itself.
Same thing.
Well, here's the thing. The pharmaceutical companies are making an outrageous amount of money.
Okay.
And, I also think that so my mom is diabetic, and she pays $1,200 a month for her insulin. That is outrageous. And,
Agreed.
Well,
she pay more now.
Yeah, exactly.
Start taxing the pharmaceutical companies. Remember, folks, companies don't pay taxes. You pay taxes.
So I just got schooled by Bill on air. So thank you, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they need to do something about the way that pharmaceuticals are. They need to open the market because I think that they've become a monopoly.
There's that, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then they have a $52 billion income tax hike on mid-sized and family businesses, which is really fun because they are already really, really hard to run and make successful. So they're making it harder. So that's very exciting. Supporting the corporate people, I guess. Supersizing the IRS to increase audits, $124 billion is going towards that. So, and just keep in mind that every single penny of that bill is going to come out of a consumer's pocket. It's not coming from the government. This is stuff that we're going to be paying for, and it's going to come through in a really big way, I think, especially when you look at all the tax that they're putting on natural gas and crude oil.
And they will actually tell you they're doing you a favor. See what we're doing? We're penalizing these companies. These are people who have never run a company in their lives. We don't have anybody in this administration that has ever been in business. None.
0 years of experience between all of them.
Yeah.
That is really scary, Bill.
Yeah. And if you will look at the facts, and I know that's very hard to do these days, but look what happened when we had a president who did have business experience, when he put people in office and in positions and administrations that did know what they were doing, that did understand that you cannot spend yourself rich, that you cannot just sign a piece of paper and wave a magic wand and suddenly we have green energy and suddenly we have lower prices. It doesn't work that way. I'm sorry. I don't know what they, in fact, I heard somebody say that this is one of the best I heard recently, who said the people these days, especially Generation Zers or whatever they are this week, that they are confusing dystopia with utopia. And that is exactly right.
I think that's a really good way to put it. I don't think that I've heard that before. So, I just...
But we got cheery Christmas music.
Yes. So while we're kind of upset about all the taxation that's going on, we do have some Christmas music that, lightens the mood a little around here.
Yeah, you remember the expression of the revolution was taxation without representation is tyranny. Well, look what we have now with representation. It makes King George III look like a piker.
I don't disagree with you. And you and I were actually we touched on something before the show. We were talking about how people that live on the islands actually don't get to vote for city council or for the mayor here, but yet they pay a lot of taxes. And one of the things that's come up that people are really fired up about that I think we're going to talk more about on a future episode when we have more time to dig into the details is the new fire bill that people have received in the mail that has doubled in a lot of places.
Yeah, and this is this is one of the reasons that about 5 years ago, Brittany, Wilmington Island actually tried to incorporate and become their own city because they said they were sick and tired of they had a seat on the county commission, but they weren't allowed to they could vote for county, but they couldn't vote for city, so they wanted to form their own city. Now they ran into all sorts of problems. Okay, how are you going to get fire protection? How are you going to get police protection? They were going to contract with the existing county police department, which is already there, and the existing fire departments, which are already there. So, but it kind of fell apart. I don't know if they're still trying to get that together or not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame them at all. I think that we're seeing the same thing in Buckhead, right? They don't, but because they pay such high taxes, it's really hard for people to want them to incorporate on their own because they use their tax money.
Okay,
So,
now explain why the people on Wilmington Island are so frustrated over the fact they can't vote for the city offices.
because, I mean, wouldn't you be frustrated if it's taxation without representation?
Yeah.
They don't have a say in how their money's being spent.
Right.
And, now they have this fire bill that, all of a sudden appeared. And I'm not sure how it got passed, but I think that's something that we'll dig into. And,
Well, they tried
some
this
people
once
has
before,
doubled.
and it was overwhelmingly defeated when they said that we're going to pass a fire tax for you to have fire protection.
Well, what do you pay taxes for, Bill?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense why all of a sudden people are getting these bills. And I mean, people are mad. Like,
Well, they should be.
Well, I also heard that they're counting the square footage of like your home. They're counting like your pool. It's like, how can you count a pool in a fire bill?
Yeah.
I don't think the pool's going to catch on fire.
Well, if it was empty and made out of wood,
Yes.
then
So,
then
we'll count that.
You might it might catch on fire. But that was the other objection, was that somebody who had a medium-sized home was going to be taxed less than somebody who had a larger home. So it doesn't make any. It's the same philosophy that I remember years ago when one of the radio shows that I was doing, we had this Cretin who was the county. Unfortunately, he was county commission chairman at that time, and this doofus was a real left-wing socialist, and he thought that the people who lived at the landings ought to be paying more for their food than people who lived in the more rural areas. In other words, if you worked into this tax bracket, then you might, if a loaf of bread was, let's say it was $2.50 in those days, then you ought to be paying maybe $3 for that loaf of bread, where the other people across town that live in a lower income type area should be paying only $2 for their loaf of bread. Now, what would that do? Of course, that would have you start going across town to buy your bread.
I was going to say, what? I mean, I would just drive to a different grocery store. Like,
Yeah, there you go.
Like,
Yeah.
are you just going to have a card? Like,
Maybe you'd have to have some sort of an ID card.
yeah, maybe. Well, in China, did you hear what they're doing? If you are,
I got a list.
well, no, on your phone you have like they have the, what is it called? The
TikTok.
They do have that. No, but it's basically a social rating system. So if you're rated yellow, you can't rent hotels, you can't get back in your apartment building, and that's what they've done to a lot of people. Oh yeah, and so that basically makes you homeless.
Well, I think that they've made them unhomeless by welding the doors shut at their places so that you get killed when the fire starts.
Yeah, I mean,
Just like that happened last week. People found out that their doors were welded shut. They couldn't get out. At least 10 people died in an apartment fire.
yeah, very, very tragic things going on in China, and we've seen a lot of the video coming out of China.
Well, they've had it.
Oh yeah,
I mean, they
do you
want-
blame them?
Yeah. No, I don't.
3
They got-
years of lockdowns?
Yeah, they want Xi Jinping's head on a platter, and I don't blame them. I would actually pay good money to see that. But this is, and he just got elected president for life. They said 5 years, but oh please.
Yeah, we know that
Yeah,
that's not going to happen. He should have never
But
been
unfortunately,
reelected.
he's got all the tanks and the jets and the and the military, so it's kind of hard to go up against that. But boy, I'll tell you, they are, and it also dovetails right into I'm not a, if you know me at all, I'm not a big soccer fan.
You're right.
But we have the big soccer game going on today between Iran and the United States in the FIFA tournament and the World Cup. And the Iranians are putting their lives on the line. They didn't sing or participate in the national anthem of their country last week, and they just executed a woman for not wearing her hijab correctly, if I'm pronouncing that properly.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that, but I mean, yeah, I think that people need to also get real about our freedoms and how lucky we are, because in other countries, the things that we say, I mean, we wouldn't be allowed to probably live.
Listen to the people who have moved here from other countries. There's a Chinese lady that is just railing against the CCP, the Communist Chinese Communist Party. And she said, I see the same thing happening here. You don't want to go down that road. What road we're going to go down is to a break.
Yes.
And we're going to take a little break here. And then when we come back, We have the bad news about the DNA report from the FBI on little Quentin next.
Yep, we'll be back.
Education is so important. People have always talked about what are we going to do? You're going to have school choice, you're going to have all different types of things. And I want to try to figure out how can we get kids an education? It doesn't matter what zip code you're from, but get them the education they need because education is an equalizer. And I truly, truly believe that. And that's the reason I'm here, just to see how this is working, what is going on, how you getting funding, and just what's happening. We put people in office that doesn't seem to care about this country anymore. And I said, you know, if I can change it and I just sit back and do nothing, what kind of man will I be? But right now, I know I can change something.
At Get Real America, we'd like to thank the Southeast Georgia Republican Assembly for all their efforts on making a difference in our communities. Welcome back to Get Real America.
Hi, Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Here it is, Tuesday, and we are 1 week away from the general election, but early voting is going on, and I cannot stress the importance of your getting out and voting if you're going to vote for Herschel Walker. Now, if you're not, then stay home, please.
Yes, Herschel Walker, he's on the ticket, and he has been out and about all over the state of Georgia.
Mm-hmm. Good for him.
Yes.
And he's not in favor of electric vehicles, so you can tell Adam Van Bremer, the editor of the Savannah Morning News, to stick it where the sun don't shine. Because he's got an editorial out today saying that Herschel should be ashamed of himself for promoting gas guzzlers instead of electric vehicles. And where do you think the electricity comes from, Adam? Well, the Big Rock Candy Mountain? Oh, please.
Makes you wonder.
Mm-hmm. Well, as we mentioned just before going to break, the DNA results are in from the FBI. They have confirmed that the bones found in the Chatham County landfill last week were Quentin Simon, the 20-month-old who was killed allegedly by his mother. She is now behind bars. She was arrested last week and charged with Quentin's murder. And it is sadness beyond belief. I can't even imagine losing a child, but I cannot imagine if you actually killed your own child after they got out of the womb, 20 months after they got out of the womb. And everybody that knew this child, the sympathy and outrage is just pouring in from people who said that that little Quentin was one of the, was just one of the most jovial little kids around. When he'd do something, he'd ask for a boom, which means a fist bump. And the sadness that is pouring out of the community and the outrage that's been pouring out of the community is heartwarming from that standpoint. But the fact that a mother would kill her own children is beyond my comprehension. The person who is supposed to love you the most, protect you the most, put their life on the line for you. I mean, I know what my mom would have done. That she would have. I mean, even when I was injured or something like that or hurt, she said, I wish I could trade your, I wish I could feel your pain, and not you feeling it. I did. Brittany, is just beyond my comprehension. I just don't understand it.
Yours and mine both. I also, the kids were not supposed to be in her possession in the first place because she had some problems with drugs and things like that, which I think plays a big role. I think that my grandma always says when you do drugs and alcohol in excess, you're almost letting the devil in. And I kind of believe that to be true because you would do things that you would never do if you were sober or if you were, not taking any of these substances. So very sad story, very sad ending. We kind of figured that this was kind of going to be the case. So that has been confirmed. Another sad story here in Chatham County is, the DA's office they are losing multiple DAs. I believe I've seen 3 just in the last month that have been that are no longer there. And this impacts their ability to try cases, to press charges, and to hold people accountable, which, crime is up 16% in our county right now.
Speaking of this is for our own public safety. What is the prime directive of government in the first place?
Protect and serve, right?
Protect the citizens of their community or their country, whatever it is. And we don't have an administration here or there that's doing any of that. And I don't say this lightly. I would never have thought, and that I think that may be one of the worst mistakes that we have made, that my generation has made, because the greatest generation, my dad, who fought in World War II, was a lieutenant commander in the Coast Guard, and went off to war to defend this land, to defend this Constitution, and to stand up for what is right. Their attitude was, when they see things like this elsewhere, would always say, it could never happen here. And because of our, I don't know, being asleep at the switch, or getting this majority of the people thinking this attitude was it couldn't happen here, it is happening because we have not elected the proper leaders. When the founding fathers started this whole thing, Brittany, one of the things that they emphasized was this would only work, a representative republic would only work if you had God-fearing, law-abiding people. If you start, when Benjamin Franklin even warned the lady who asked him, "Sir, what do we have?" He said, "Well, you have a republic, madam, if you can keep it." And he said, as soon as the public finds out that they can vote themselves largesse from the Treasury, that is, money from the Treasury, I give you the Great Society, food stamps, and all the other social programs, then it's going to fall apart. Now, it is a living testament to the free enterprise system that we have been able to survive all of the mess that Washington has thrown, and roadblocks that government has thrown in the way of private businesses. But more and more people are being elected who believe that government should be running things. And who's the government? It's people. So you have to pay attention. That's what we're telling you how important this election is that these people run your lives. They make laws that will dictate what you have to do. And somehow they put a little caveat in there that says that they don't have to obey those same laws.
It's interesting how that works, Bill, that they have a lot of exemptions. When it comes to Obamacare, I believe they were exempt from that.
Yeah.
And we saw how that's worked out for everyone.
They could get out of Social Security. They could have their own private accounts and things of that nature. I think
insider trading, which they deny, but that's happening.
Yeah.
So I think the other thing that's really important is that people need to really think about what the government's role is, because if you believe that the government is here to solve all your problems, we have more problems than we've ever had, and we have more government involvement than we've ever had.
Sure have.
And you also look at I'm trying to think of what the name of the bill is. It's definitely not the Right to Marriage Act, or do you know what I'm talking about? They just passed it last night.
Defense of Marriage Act.
Yes.
Defense of Marriage Act?
Yes, where they're saying you can marry whoever and all of these things. But I think the thing to think about there is, at what point do we have a boundary? Are we going to allow people to marry their animals? Are we going to, what point do we get to where this just becomes very, very ridiculous? And I mean, we're already living in a very sexualized society, a very corrupted society. And if it goes any further, Bill, where are we going to be?
Mm-hmm. It's an excellent point. I said the Defense of Marriage Act. That was something that Bill Clinton came up with, and it was to defend the right, male and female type thing. That would define marriage. Well, so I'm not sure what the other bill was that that sort of negated that and said, you could marry anybody, anywhere, anytime, as many people as you wanted to, and decide which gender you happen to be this week.
They just voted on it in the middle of the night, Bill.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. They do a lot. They do a lot of that middle of the night voting stuff.
Yes, and I'm trying to see. I believe it was our favorite Chuck Schumer who.
Up Chuck Schumer, right?
Yeah, I know that we definitely love him, but he was very excited about this being passed last night.
This is the guy, by the way, that Raphael Warnock supports 96% of the time. I don't know what he does the other 4% of the time. The only thing I can see so far that I've agreed with Warnock on is don't close our defense force here that trains jet pilots and fighter pilots and refueling people and everything else. Right here at our center here in Savannah. It's so vital.
Yeah, and so it's the Respect for Marriage Act.
Oh.
And it's to send a message to Americans everywhere that no matter who you are or who you love, you deserve dignity and equal treatment under the law. So I think that, like I said, I think the way they word these things, it becomes very dangerous because you have a bunch of attorneys up there making these laws that you don't even think, like, how could this be used nefariously? But then, 2-3 years down the road, something comes up and it's in this bill and we're like, wait a minute, we didn't agree to that.
Yeah.
So I think that it's really important that we really start to clean house, and it's not going to happen overnight, but we need to get rid of a lot of the corruption that's in our government, and a lot of it will start here at home in Chatham County, in Savannah, and we have an opportunity to vote right now for Herschel Walker, and then next year we have all of our municipality elections.
I think one of the things that people are, wonder, how did that happen? How did that get here? They don't realize, and I think some of the things they ought to get rid of in our government is riders. Things that you attach to a bill. Okay, it's not in there, but they voted on an amendment to it, or not an amendment, but we'll attach to this bill this particular piece of legislation. And you don't know what it is until, as Brittany said, 2-3 years down the road, something happens and said, well, when did that pass? Well, it passed, and the We Don't Give a Rat's Ass Act, and there's where it was. It was the third rider in that was proposed by Senator Markey from Massachusetts, as we say here in the sunny South. That's how it happens, and so one thing, you get rid of riders. We've railed against the fact that there shouldn't be any piece of legislation that's more than 25 pages. In fact, it'll be less.
See, I'm like 3 to 5 pages. Like, there is no reason. We don't need attorneys writing these bills. The American people need to be able to read them. We don't need the lawyer speak in there. I think they just need to be written in plain English for people, because I think that there's too many loopholes that they've created as well.
Not only plain English, but also at least given a week in advance and shown to the public before they ever vote on it, because that was promised by the Dalai Lama when he was running for president back in 2008. So time flies when you're having fun, doesn't it?
I know.
Now, speaking of time flying, we're going to be right back because there was some great things that went on at the Coast Guard Air Station over the Thanksgiving weekend. We're going to hear from a couple of our heroes next.
When you're looking to buy a business or sell a business, the experts at Best Business Brokers have you covered. Whether you're ready to cash in on your years of hard work or you're taking that first step in buying a business of your own, they're here to guide you through the process and make sure you get the best outcome possible. By having Best Business Brokers assist you when you buy a business or sell a business, they handle the legwork of the intricate process. This ensures a smooth transition of ownership, allowing you to get to work immediately or receive payment for your business as soon as possible. With base operations in Savannah and Charleston, they service all of Georgia and South Carolina. If you're considering starting a business here, the mild winters and 5-tiered economic areas make these the perfect places to do so. If you're ready to buy a business or sell a business, then you're ready to contact Best Business Brokers. Visit their website at b3brokers.com or call at 912-349-0940.
At Get Real America, we want to promote your business to our conservative audience.
Wasteful Washington spending is killing us with inflation and sky-high prices on groceries and gas. Senator Raphael Warnock voted to allow hundreds of millions of dollars of COVID relief funds to be squandered on a luxury resort in Florida, a New Jersey soccer stadium, a ski area in Iowa. Tell Senator Warnock to start voting against reckless spending to stop inflation. Georgia families need cheaper gas and food, not frivolous luxuries in other states.
I'm Herschel Walker, and I approve this message.
Out of all the people I've ever seen work with veterans, Herschel Walker has done more as an individual than anybody I've ever seen. I've walked with him in the bases, I've been with him in the hospitals, talking about mental health issues and how he had gotten help. You could see it kind of open the doors for a lot of people. When he leaves a base, it has an impact long after he's gone. He gives his all to veterans and active duty guys.
Let me tell you guys something. You know, every time I go out to speak, everybody want a sound bite. I'm going to give you a sound bite really quick. I'm sick and tired of people putting this country down. They want to ask me why I'm running. Let's be real. I'm sick and tired. You look at the economy, you look at the gas prices. You can't buy a grocery now. It's time for us to wake up. It's time for me to get out and fight. Because I'm going to tell you, I love to win. I said, put me in the game, coach. I'm ready to play. If you ever seen me play, I can play. Have you ever seen me fight, I can fight. No matter how hard they come, how hard I can fight. I'm sick and tired of this. Tell your friends to get out and vote. I'm not here to be a politician. I'm here to be a warrior. Protect this country, protect our citizens, and protect our kids. No weapon formed against me shall ever prosper. Boom! That's it, baby!
At Get Real America, we want to make sure that the real story gets out, and you can help us as a sponsor or as an advertiser to make sure that that word does get out to the community.
Be a sponsor and support your local community here at Get Real America. Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
1 week away from the big election day, but early voting is going on now. Can't urge you enough. And if anybody is voting, if there are certain groups that are voting in a group and you need me to come pick up your ballots, I'll be glad to. I'll drop right by, and we call it ballot harvesting. It's illegal in Georgia, but I don't think anything's illegal anymore. So we haven't seen anything happen to the bad guys yet. So
yeah, I think that there's a lot to be said about that, but I did hear that there are some long waits. Bryan County had some really long lines yesterday, from what I understand. We also had a lot of people in line here in Chatham County. So get out there, vote, and if you don't vote, don't complain.
No, there's nothing for you to complain about if you haven't gone out and participated in the political process. Over the weekend, of course, we had the big Thanksgiving weekend. I hope everybody got their fill, and we tried to make sure that everybody got a good turkey dinner for Thanksgiving, including those who are stationed here in the military who don't get a chance to go home because their orders don't allow them, and somebody's got to be here manning the store. And among those are our friends at the Coast Guard Air Station. This is an incredible. In fact, Brittany, this is such a great assignment for commanders that usually when a Coast Guardsman is told your next assignment is the commander of the air station Savannah, they say his buddies ask, "Who do you know in Washington?"
Savannah's a great place to be.
It is great, and what these kids and believe me, from my standpoint, they're kids. But what they do on a daily basis is unbelievable. And they don't get the publicity they deserve. And frankly, they don't want it. All you hear from them is, I was just doing my job. I can remember, it's hard to believe, but it's been 10 years since the HMS Bounty that was sunk off the coast of North Carolina, about 80 miles off the coast, in a hurricane. They got caught in a hurricane. The captain thought he could beat it, and unfortunately he didn't. They rescued 10 of the 12 that were on board the ship, including one of the young ladies was the daughter of a then city council member.
Oh wow!
And I remember I did an interview with the people up there in North Carolina that participated in the rescue, and their attitude was at the time, and I hadn't seen the video yet. They said, "Yeah, we went out there, and picked them up and brought them in." Then I saw the document that was done on the weather. I believe it was the Weather Channel, maybe an A&E, but one of the two. No, they didn't just go out there and pick them up. They went out in basically a hurricane and picked these people up out of the water. At any minute, they get so close down when they're picking these people up. Sometimes a huge, a big wave, a 20 or 30-foot wave, could come along out of nowhere and swamp the helicopter. This was a dangerous mission that they went out and saved 10 of the 12 people who were aboard the Bounty. But this is what our Coast Guard air station here does on a daily basis, going out and saving people, boats that are sinking. They run aground, they're lost, they don't know where they are, they get in some sort of trouble and run out of fuel because they don't have electric boats. But one of the things that our Coast Guard does on a daily basis is go out and save people. And I had a chance to talk with a couple of one of the people who works on those helicopters, and also a gentleman who was down here visiting this past Thursday. We went out to the Navy League of Savannah, did a buffet lunch, Turkey Day lunch for them on Thanksgiving Day at the pavilion out at the Coast Guard Air Station at Hunter Army Airfield here. And he was visiting down from New York, where they're celebrating the 120th anniversary of the original Navy Council, which was formed by President Theodore Roosevelt. Starting off with him, and then one of the mechanics that works on the helicopter. Let's take a look. Would you tell everybody who you are?
Charles Blake. My current position in the Navy League is a Vice President of Fleet Support of the New York Council Navy League, celebrating its 120th anniversary this year.
In fact, I understand there's something very special about that council, isn't it?
We were the first council in the United States formed with the enthusiastic recommendation of President Roosevelt, because at that point New York was a large supporter of the fleet of the Navy, with its building capabilities and with a tremendous amount of financial support coming out of New York. So we've been around for 120 years.
And what was your service like? Where did you serve?
I'm a Marine, so I did my tours in Vietnam and in the States. I spent total between active and reserve 30 years. I retired out of the Marine Corps as a colonel, as an 06.
Thank you for your service to our country. What does the Navy League mean for you?
Well, it's a chance to give back to a lot of the sea services who did support me when I was a Marine, an active duty Marine. My son is a current helicopter pilot here in Savannah, so that got us involved in meeting that's how we got to meet everybody down here. And it's become it's sort of a humorous thing. Dan invited us to Thanksgiving dinner, and we go over to the air station. So everybody in New York thinks it's very, very, very interesting.
So Charlie, what do you think of this buffet that we have for these?
It's always spectacular. There's so many of the southern dishes that I look forward to every year here. That, what you do with sweet potatoes is unbelievable.
Well, we're glad you're here. Thank you for your service. And what do you want to tell young people coming along now about maybe getting one of the sea services or spending military at all?
What I want to say is, go and do it. Of course, it's something unknown. Of course, it's not right in your usual wheelhouse. It's something you do every day. You probably don't even know anybody that was in the service. Talk to some people who are in it. Go on a ship when they come in for Fleet Week. Go talk to, even if it isn't the sea services, go talk to the Army, talk to the Air Force. We need good people. We need a lot of good people. And just as an aside, I also retired as a fire chief out of New York, going through 9/11. And once a year I go and give a talk somewhere. The past 2 years has been to the Air Force, one at Scott Air Force Base, and one in a place called Goodfellow Air Force Base in Texas, which is where they train all the crash crews for all the services. And that was most of the young men and women there weren't even born when 9/11 occurred. So it's always a motivational type, and to see these young people putting their lives in support of their country is really impressive.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate you being here. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Right. But tell everybody who you are. We'll get to that in a second.
Yes.
That was Charles Blake, Blake, and he is from New York, but his son is serving here at the Coast Guard Air Station Savannah, and down here and enjoying Southern hospitality and Southern food.
Hey, that's why I moved here. The food, man. It's so good. So good.
It is outstanding. Well, one of the people who fly not only flies on the helicopters, but he makes sure that they stay flying. Had a chance to talk with a petty officer, Thomas Quinn. Tell everybody who you are.
I'm Thomas Duong. I'm a petty officer, second class in the Coast Guard, AET.
What do you do?
I mainly work on electronics in the aircraft, and then when I'm not doing that, I'm flying. I'm a flight mech. And that's that's pretty much what I do. I do search and rescue. And
What drew you to the Coast Guard?
What was that?
What drew you to the Coast Guard?
Mainly the benefits, paying for college, and then the mission. I like the mission. I like the the people, the stations. It's just
Well, I want to thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you.
And what do you think of this Thanksgiving feast we have here for you?
The spread was great. The food was delicious. The conversation was excellent.
Where are you from?
I'm from Philly.
Okay.
Yep.
And how long you been here?
About 2.5 years now.
Okay. Some exciting adventures off the coast, is it? When you've been out on some of these rescues?
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of learning experiences, a lot of unique challenges. Definitely exciting. Definitely gets the adrenaline running.
This has got to be one of the most satisfying jobs that can possibly be, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think the mission itself, just being able to help people, bring them home, make sure they get to see their families.
Yeah, you want to make this a career?
Right now, yeah, it's definitely a career. It's definitely it's going to be a lifelong thing.
Well, thank you for your service. I appreciate it. Yep. And happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Yep, same
appreciate
to you.
It. And you got this your wife?
Yes, this is my wife, Bailey.
Yeah. You're Mrs.
I'm Bailey.
Yeah.
Where are you from, Bailey?
I'm from Michigan.
Okay. How'd you two guys meet?
So we met online when you were stationed up north.
Yep.
And then I came down with you to Georgia.
All right. Well, thank you, because it's when Dad serves, Mom serves, or the family serves, and we appreciate everything that you do for us to keep the home fires burning too. Thanks. So heartwarming. You notice the nonchalance. We just go out and say, rescue people.
Yeah.
A learning experience.
Just what we do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Just what we do.
I can just, remember one of the commanders that had the honor of knowing from the 3rd Infantry Division here, Major General Rick Lynch, who went on to get his 3rd star and was a commander at Fort Hood for a couple of years. And one of the things that that he said was how impressed he was with his quote dog-faced soldiers and all the sacrifices that were made, and how much they appreciated the support that we have here. He said there is no other. This is the most patriotic military supporting community that you can ask almost to a soldier or airman or anybody else who has ever been stationed here, that Savannah not only walks the walk, not talks the talk, but they walk the walk. That they have never been in a place of coastal Georgia like they have anywhere else in the support. They've had good support elsewhere.
Yeah.
But said nothing like the overwhelming support that they have here, and how much they appreciate it, and what it means to the soldiers, and what it means to the soldiers when they're deployed, because they know that the home fires are kept burning and that the families are being well taken care of here. That is, if you're worried about your family and you're worried about the next combat mission, there's a conflict there. If they know that mom and the kids are going to be taken care of, or dad and the kids in some cases are taken care of back home, that gives them time to concentrate on their job.
Yeah, and I think that us having such a big military support here, because we have so many we have 3 bases here in close proximity, and I think that really helps.
Every branch of the
support.
service is represented here. So, and then right across the river, of course, you have the Marine Corps Air Station Beaufort, as well as Parris Island, where they make Marines, and of course they keep trying to close that base. That makes perfect sense. And also the Beaufort, the Marine or the Navy Hospital, that's in Beaufort as well. Plus and then to the south of us, just south of Brunswick, of course, is the nuclear submarine base. So
yeah, lots of military here. Yes,
yeah,
yes.
We do.
It's a good place to be if you're in the military, and it's a good place to be when we get back.
Mm-hmm. Sure is.
Get in touch with us at info@granewsmedia.com, or you can give us a call at 912-376-9295.
Well, what's at stake for me is I want the Georgia people to have a voice in Washington. I think in less than 2 years, they haven't had a voice. Senator Warnock has done everything for Joe Biden and not for the Georgia people. I think people see that in his voting. You know, he's voted for this open border. He hadn't said anything about it. You see the way the economy is right now. You see men and women's sports. He's voted for things like that. Crime on the streets, and this is less than 2 years. That meaning that people of Georgia hadn't had a voice. Right now, I speak for the Georgia people, and I will always speak for the Georgia people. That's the reason I decided to run. I tell everyone I'm not a politician, never look like one, never act like one. But right now, what Senator Warnock has done to the Georgia people is not correct. The Georgia people are much better than the way he's represented us in Washington.
I'm Herschel Walker, and I approve this message.
I admired Herschel from the beginning. Herschel has always been challenged about doing things that people thought he wasn't capable of doing. He wants to be the best, and he has striven to do that, disciplined himself to do that, falls sometimes along the way, but he gets back up, and with his incredible drive and self-discipline, he has achieved mighty things. He's a real patriot of this country. He loves the United States of America. He also is realistic that it can be better. He is not a, quote, politician. There is a need in this country. There is need in this state for somebody like Herschel. Knowing him, the character that he has, he will make a great United States Senator.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
And we're a week away from voting day. Please, please, please. Early voting is underway, so go out and vote.
Yes. And on the voting front, I don't know if you've heard a lot of what's going on in Arizona, but this could have very easily been Georgia. I will say we did have, at least some legislation passed that helped with our voting. I don't think it's perfect. I think there are still some things that we could do to make them better.
Sure is.
But I do think that we could have very well been in the same situation that Arizona is in if we had not passed our law here in Georgia.
So what's happened?
Well, there was a certification that happened yesterday, Bill, and one of the things is,
So did we get the right person in office?
I don't believe so.
Oh.
So let's see. The deputy attorney, the county administrator said they must certify today or face Class 6 felony charges. So they were threatened if they did not certify this election in these counties that they would be facing a felony charge. So I wanted to talk about Mojave County with him certifying as he says he's in duress. So I think we have a clip of that right here.
Yeah, Mojave County. Let's.
I vote aye under duress. I found out today that I have no choice but to vote aye or I'll be arrested and charged with a felony. I don't think that is what our founders had in mind when they used the democratic process to elect our leaders, our form of self-government, and I find that very disheartening. With your vote of 4 ayes and 0 nays, you've approved item 1B. Anything else for the good of the order?
I think that that's very telling, Bill.
Didn't sound like a good of the order to me.
No, and I think when people are being forced to do things or make decisions because they're being threatened, especially when you look at Katie Hobbs, who, number one, ran this election, number two, is going into the office that she won, and she's the one handing down all of these threats. And then you also have people that are certifying these elections that are now part of her transition team that have been announced. You also have people in Maricopa County who ran the elections that also had a super PAC against Kari Lake. So I just don't know how they could certify these elections, but it does allow the case for Kari Lake to move forward. They are allowed to file their lawsuit, and it had to be certified in order for her to file the lawsuit. So they're moving forward with the process, and Kari Lake says she's prepared to fight.
And in Maricopa County, by the way, that is heavily Republican. Kari Lake was way ahead in the polls, statewide, and yet people got to Maricopa County's voting places and machines weren't working. They were running out of ink. Now, when was the last time they voted in Maricopa County? Wasn't it 2 years ago?
It was.
Okay. No runoffs. 2 years ago. And you've got, on election day, you've got machines that aren't working and you're running out of ink. Now, what's wrong with this picture? And where is the lamestream media on this? And where are the people who want to protect our precious democracy?
Well, and there was also a lot of people. They had a forum, obviously, before they were able to certify the election in Maricopa County. They had people that were able to talk. However, they limited them to 2 minutes, which really upset a lot of people. They felt like they were not acting as public servants and were really restricting what they were able to say and expressing their grievances with this election. And one of the guys, basically said, the only person that you're protecting are the people that have participated in malfeasance in this election. And, other people said, you don't represent us. You are not doing the right thing. I mean, people are very mad. And, one of the ladies, she's an older lady, and she was talking about how in Florida they had a hurricane and they were still able to count their votes same day. And in Arizona, it takes them 2 weeks. It's an embarrassment, and it should not be allowed.
And what's the population of Florida?
Oh,
somewhere in the 22 million range?
Yes.
And the population of Arizona is?
I think it's only 2 or 3 million, isn't it?
I think it's closer to 4. But nevertheless, it's a lot less than 22. And yet Florida was able to get their votes counted and certified before 10 o'clock.
Well, and one of the guys was talking about how he was working the election. The night before, they went and set up. Everything was working. They had some issues in the beginning, but they got everything set up. It was fine. They went back at 5:30 in the morning to clock in, and all of a sudden these machines don't work. How does that happen, Bill? I think that there's a lot of questions to be answered, and I think that, Katie Hobbs should have she shouldn't have been in charge of this election. She should have
recused herself.
Yes, absolutely.
And she was asked on several occasions to recuse herself, and she didn't. She also refused to debate Kari Lake, and with good reason, because I saw an interview with Ms. Hobbs, and she couldn't put two sentences together. It was almost like she was a young Joe Biden. It was unbelievable how just totally vapid this woman was.
Well, and it makes you wonder where the money's coming from for these candidates to run and why they are allowed to not debate. I think that should be a requirement. If you're going to run for office, you should be able to tell us what you're doing.
There should be at least 2 debates.
Yes, absolutely. And they should be before early voting. They should be before voting day.
Yep.
And I think that you do a lot of disservice to people when you're not willing to show up. And that's why I don't believe that Katie Hobbs actually won. I think that there was a lot of malfeasance going on.
Just the same thing that happened here in Georgia. We had people who signed affidavits. Now, when you sign this affidavit, that means that you are signing a piece of paper that could put you in jail if you are swearing falsely to this statement. And there was one lady, you talked about the voting machines that were working properly here. This was a little north of Atlanta 2 years ago when they were setting up the voting machines there for the Senate runoff. And it was a very cold day. They had everything set up the night before. And these machines, Brittany, work on an environmental, that it has to be
Temperature control.
They have to be environmentally friendly. The temperature should be somewhere between like 65 and 95 degrees on these machines.
I don't think that's good for the environment, just for the record.
So she's, you don't think 95 is good for the environment?
I don't think that temperature controlled is good for the environment. If we have to use any sort of gas product to make sure that the temperature is controlled, I don't think that they did the right thing by putting these machines in place. Just saying.
Okay. All right. But they had the machines. In other words, the air conditioning system, the HVAC system, has to work properly, just like it does at your house. Otherwise, there are problems. She gets to work the next morning. They get there about 5:30, and you could have hung meat in this place. And they look around. They're trying to get the heat on, and they can't get it to work. The fan comes on, but they're not getting any heat. They call the HVAC experts. Around lunchtime, the guys come in and say, there's nothing wrong with the HVAC system. Somebody's turned off the gas. Okay? So these machines were not working properly, and somehow the gas had been turned off to the air conditioning system. So what's wrong with this picture? She signed affidavits saying, making those statements, which could send her to jail if this was a false statement. Because they send Republicans to jail. Democrats don't have to worry about it. But they do send Republicans to jail. And she said that this was a total fiasco because somebody turned off the gas.
Well, also, I think the QR codes are really concerning to me as well, Bill. Like, why do we have QR codes on our ballots? It doesn't make
We have QR codes on our ballots?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't see one, but maybe I missed it.
QR code, it's on the right-hand side at the top, I believe, or in the middle.
Really?
That's what's scanned. Mm-hmm. That's what's scanned. It's not actually it doesn't work like an old school Scantron.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work like that. It's not actually counting those votes. It's whatever the QR code says. So I think that is concerning to me enough that I don't understand why we have to use QR codes, especially because they're very easy to manipulate.
I was not in favor of this computer voting when it came out, and a lot of people asked me why. Here's Exhibit A.
Well, it's made it more difficult to count the votes. It's made it more difficult to have a same-day election. And, the reason we use technology is to make things better and make things easier, and that just hasn't been the outcome.
It's been the most accurate voting system ever. And that's the one that they got rid of in Florida because of the hanging Chad situation. There weren't any hanging Chads. That was all made up by the Democrats because they were losing the election to President Bush, eventually President Bush, then governor at the time of Texas. But they made this story up. We used to have those. In fact, my history teacher had one of those machines, and we took the history test on these little cards.
Yeah.
And all you had to do was punch it out, and you looked on the back of it. You made sure I didn't recall it hanging Chads at the time, but you just looked at it to make sure that there was nothing else. The card was clean. It's easy to verify. You just look at it. Okay, if nothing there, you put it in the machine. It goes, and in about 3 seconds, I knew what my score was on the test.
Yes, that's basically how a Scantron works. But these machines work very differently, and I think that there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. And
getting rid of them? Yeah,
well, I think until we have elections that run very smoothly, which we haven't really had in a long time, it feels like, I think that we need to revisit this and also make some different decisions. So hopefully we can get our political leaders to agree, but some of them definitely benefit from these machines. So
I'm glad we got that all straightened out.
Yes.
And we're going to be, and I want to say, as we're saying goodbye, we also want to say goodbye to another one of the icon businesses in Savannah, in the area.
So actually, this is in Ellijay. So it is in North Georgia, North Georgia, but it's Pools Barbecue, and they were known for being the Republican version in this area for barbecue. So I guess there was more of the liberal people that went to another barbecue spot, but this was more for the conservatives.
Americans.
Yes.
Yeah, this was for Americans. But farewell to Pools Barbecue. You're going to be sorely missed.
Yes, and I heard it was the best barbecue around. So I'm really sad I missed it, but lots of history there. They went to D.C. and, took barbecue up there because they can't get good barbecue in the north.
The damn Yankees. You don't know how to eat. That's that's why the guy from New York came down here.
Exactly.
Get the good sweet potatoes and things of that nature. Miss Johnny Harris Barbecue too. And we'll see you tomorrow.